Once upon a time, in a small town by the sea, there was a young girl named Luna. Luna wasn't like the other kids in school. She had a big, shiny scar on her face that stretched from her forehead down to her cheek. The scar sparkled in the sunlight, almost like it was part of a special constellation, but Luna always covered it with a soft, metallic eye patch that could change color depending on her mood. No one else in her class had something like that, and it made Luna feel different, sometimes in a way that made her want to disappear. Luna got her scar when she was just a little girl. It happened during a terrible storm that swept through her town. The storm was so fierce that it damaged houses, boats, and even the power lines that ran across the town. It was the worst storm the town had seen in years, and it left behind not just broken buildings, but also broken hearts. That night, Luna's mother had carried her and her baby brother to safety, but a large piece of metal from an old boat flew past them and struck Luna's face. It was the scar that no one wanted to talk about, not even Luna's father, a hard-working fisherman with hands stained from years of mending nets and fixing boats. But he always told Luna one thing that made her feel better. Luna, beauty isn't about how you look. It's about how kind you are and how you treat others. Even though she had the love and wisdom of her father, Luna couldn't escape the teasing at school. The other children didn't see the scar the way her father did. They saw it as something strange, something that set her apart. They pointed, laughed, and whispered behind her back. "Look at Luna, the girl with the scar," they would giggle. But the worst of all was Tommy. Tommy was the most popular boy in the school. His father owned the biggest store in town, and Tommy always had the best clothes and the best shoes. He was the star of every game, and all the other kids followed him. But Tommy didn't just stop at being the most popular, he was also the meanest. Every day, Tommy would call Luna names. "Why do you even come to school, Luna? You look like a monster," he would sneer, always accompanied by his group of friends who would laugh along with him. "Does your dad fix your face like he fixes broken boats?" Tommy would taunt, and Luna would shrink back in her seat, trying to ignore him, but it was impossible to ignore the hurt. She had learned to smile through the pain, but inside, it made her feel small. Luna tried her best to ignore Tommy's insults, but it wasn't always easy. She spent most of her school days looking down at her desk or hiding behind her books, hoping no one would notice her. She worked hard in class, hoping that her grades would be her strength, but every time she walked down the hallway, Tommy's voice would ring out. He and his friends would call out to her, mocking her for her scar and her eye patch. One day, during lunch, Luna felt a tiny spark of hope. She had saved up all her allowance money for an entire week so she could buy her favorite meal at the school cafeteria, fried chicken and mashed potatoes. It wasn't much, but it was a treat she looked forward to every month. She carried her tray carefully, her stomach rumbling with excitement. But as she walked into the cafeteria, she didn't see the sneakers Tommy and his friends had left on the floor, deliberately placed so she would trip. Luna didn't notice the trap until it was too late. Her feet slid out from under her, and her tray went flying through the air. Splat! The food landed all over the floor, and the cafeteria went silent. Luna could feel every single eye in the room on her, and then, like a drum echoing in the silence, Tommy's loud voice rang out. "Look at Luna. She can't even hold a tray without making a mess. What a loser." Luna's face turned bright red. She wanted to hide under the table, to disappear, to be anywhere other than the center of the room. But instead, she stood there, trembling, as the laughter filled the air. The whispers began, too. "Look at her, she's a mess," one girl giggled. "She's so clumsy," another boy said. Luna could feel the tears threatening to fall, but she swallowed them down. She clenched her fists on the edge of the table, her nails digging into the surface. She didn't want to run away this time. She had to be strong. Instead of breaking down, Luna did something she never thought she would do. She straightened her back, took a deep breath, and turned to face Tommy. His grin was wide and full of pride, but Luna's voice was steady when she spoke. "I may have spilled my food, Tommy, but at least I'm not mean like you," she said, looking him directly in the eyes. The laughter stopped. Tommy's grin wavered. For a second, it felt like the world held its breath, waiting for what would happen next. But then Tommy sneered and turned his back, his friends following him out of the cafeteria. Luna stood there, her heart still racing, but for the first time, she didn't feel small. She didn't feel broken. She had spoken up, and that was enough. But the battle wasn't over. Luna knew that Tommy wasn't going to stop. He didn't just want to make fun of her, he wanted to break her completely. And soon, he would try again. The next week, the air grew cooler, and the ground outside the school was wet from a morning rain. The playground was full of huge puddles, and Luna carefully walked toward the school entrance, her books clutched close to her chest. But as she rounded the corner, she saw Tommy and his gang waiting near one of the biggest puddles in the yard. "Where do you think you're going, Luna?" Tommy said, stepping in front of her. His friends snickered behind him. "Don't you know it's dangerous to walk around here with that scar of yours?" Luna tried to ignore him and walked to the side, hoping to avoid a confrontation. But Tommy blocked her again. "I'm not done with you, Luna," he said with a smirk. "You're going to get what's coming to you." Before Luna could react, Tommy shoved her hard, and she lost her balance. She fell backward, and splash. She landed face-first into the thick, sticky mud. The laughter erupted behind her, and Tommy clapped his hands. "Look at Luna now. Her face is just like the mud. She's as ugly as it, too." The laughter was louder this time, crueler than before. Luna's heart pounded, and her hands trembled as she tried to push herself up from the ground. Her clothes were soaked in mud, her hair matted to her face. She could feel the burning in her chest, the hot tears stinging behind her eyes. But she didn't cry. She wouldn't cry. Slowly, Luna stood up. Her knees were weak, but she didn't look back at the group of laughing kids. She wiped the mud from her face, and with as much strength as she could muster, she turned to Tommy and said, "I may be covered in mud, but I'm not going to let you break me." Tommy's smile faltered for just a second, but then he and his friends laughed even louder, thinking Luna was weak. But Luna didn't care about their laughter anymore. She walked away, her steps firm and steady, even though her heart felt like it was breaking. That night, as Luna sat on her bed, her mind was full of questions. How long could she keep being strong? How much longer could she take the teasing? She felt so alone, but there was one thing she knew: she couldn't give up. Not now. The next day, Luna arrived at school, still covered in mud from the day before. She didn't mind so much anymore. It was just another day to get through, just another battle to win. But she couldn't shake the feeling of loneliness that seemed to follow her around. The whispers still buzzed in the hallways, and Tommy was always there with his mocking smile. But something had changed inside Luna. She was tired of being afraid. Tired of hiding her pain. She remembered her father's words: "Beauty isn't in the face. Beauty is in the heart." It wasn't just a saying, it was the truth. Luna knew it now, deep in her heart. She had to hold on to what was inside, because that was the only thing that truly mattered. That afternoon, as Luna walked to her usual spot behind the school building to be alone, she noticed an old woman sitting on the bench. She had a basket with her, filled with apples, and her hair was wrapped in a faded scarf. Luna had never seen this woman before, and she felt an urge to approach her. The old woman smiled warmly when she saw Luna. "You look like you've had a hard day, dear. Come, sit with me," she said kindly, patting the seat next to her. Luna hesitated but then sat down. The old woman handed her an apple from the basket. "You look like you could use a friend," the woman said gently. Luna smiled a little, taking the apple but feeling unsure of how to respond. "I don't think I have many friends," Luna said, her voice quiet. "At school, they laugh at me because of my scar." The old woman looked at Luna with wise, knowing eyes. "People are afraid of what they don't understand," she said softly. "But you know, Luna, that scar doesn't define you. It's just a mark on your body, not on your heart." Luna felt a warmth in her chest as the old woman's words sank in. For the first time, someone truly understood. "Thank you," Luna whispered, feeling a little lighter. The old woman smiled, her eyes twinkling. "I want to give you something that might help you when the world feels heavy." The woman reached into her bag and pulled out a small jar filled with a glowing blue cream. It sparkled as Luna held it in her hands. "This is very special," the old woman explained. "It's not magic, but it will help you see what's inside yourself." The next time someone tries to hurt you with their words, all you need to do is smile and say thank you. You'll see, Luna, it will change things. Luna frowned, confused. But how will saying thank you stop the bullying? The old woman's smile was calm and peaceful. It's not about stopping them, my dear. It's about finding your own peace. You'll see the power in kindness. And the world will change in ways you can't even imagine. Luna didn't fully understand what the woman meant, but something about her words felt right. Luna nodded and promised she would try. The woman stood up and patted Luna's shoulder. Remember, the power you seek is already inside you. This little jar will just help you find it. Use it wisely. As the woman walked away, Luna sat there, still holding the jar in her hands. It felt cool to the touch, and as she stared at it, she wondered if it could really help her. The next morning, Luna returned to school with a sense of calmness she had never felt before. She had the jar tucked safely in her backpack, and her heart felt just a little bit stronger. She wasn't going to let Tommy's teasing get to her anymore. She was ready to face whatever came her way. Luna was in class when she heard the familiar voice. Well, if it isn't Luna, the girl with the scar. Tommy's voice rang out, loud and mocking. His friends chuckled behind him. Are you still walking around with that eye patch? What's the matter, Luna? Are you afraid to show your ugly face? Luna took a deep breath. She could feel her heart pounding, but she remembered what the old woman had said. She knew this was her moment. Instead of getting angry or running away, Luna smiled. It wasn't a fake smile, but a real one. She looked at Tommy and said, "Thank you, Tommy." Tommy froze. He stared at Luna in confusion. His friends stopped laughing, unsure of what to make of her reaction. Luna's voice was steady and calm as she added, "Thank you for showing me how strong I can be." For a moment, there was complete silence. Tommy opened his mouth to say something, but no words came out. His face flushed red, and he quickly turned away, muttering under his breath. His friends exchanged confused looks, unsure of what had just happened. Luna didn't feel the sting of Tommy's words anymore. Instead, she felt a strange kind of peace. She had spoken up without getting angry, and that felt good. Over the next few days, something strange began to happen. Tommy, who had always been the loudest and meanest kid in school, started to change. He no longer made fun of Luna. He didn't laugh at her, and he didn't pick on her. Luna wasn't sure why, but it felt like the power of kindness had worked. One day, during a school event, Tommy came up to Luna with his head down. "Hey, Luna," he said softly. "I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. I was a jerk to you, and I shouldn't have treated you that way." Luna blinked in surprise. She hadn't expected Tommy to apologize, but there he was, standing in front of her, looking genuinely sorry. "I didn't mean to hurt you," Tommy continued. "I don't know. But I see now that I was wrong. You're actually pretty strong, Luna." Luna smiled. "Thank you, Tommy. I forgive you." Tommy smiled back, though it was a little shy. And from that day on, he never teased Luna again. In fact, he started to include her in conversations, and Luna even found herself talking to him in class. Slowly, Tommy began to realize that there was more to people than their appearance or a scar on their face. He learned that kindness went a long way, and he began treating everyone with more respect. As the weeks passed, Luna's life started to change. She no longer felt like the odd one out. The other kids in her class began to see her for who she really was: kind, brave, and strong. They started to admire her, and many of them came to her for advice or to talk. Even Tommy, who had once been her greatest tormentor, became one of her friends. He would sit with her at lunch, asking her questions about her life and listening when she spoke. He no longer saw her scar as something to make fun of. Instead, he saw it as a mark of her strength. One day, as Luna was sitting outside with her friends, she realized that she no longer worried about her scar or the eye patch. It wasn't what made her who she was. It was her heart, her kindness, and her bravery that defined her. She looked out at the sea, the waves sparkling in the sunlight. It reminded her of the old woman's words, "The power is already inside you." And Luna knew now that she had found that power. She had found the strength to be herself and to forgive others, no matter what. She was no longer just the girl with the scar. She was Luna, the girl with the heart full of kindness and strength. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to drop your thoughts, subscribe and like.